And we amplified Innovate Alabama's story to an audience of 900 million viewers. And I want to touch on that for a little bit because I know that number is like, whoa. These figures were based on data from a company called Cision, which is a media monitoring tool that estimates how many people typically see this content from each media outlet. And we tracked these based on audience reach members from 2025 to really kind of compute this total. So, any questions? Cision, C-I-S-I-O-N. Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I hope I want to thank you for your efforts there. The differences, Madam CEO, in what we've seen in our focus on education of our legislative members and elected officials has exponentially increased to the credit of all of us interested in the continued success of Innovate Alabama. And I want to thank you for your efforts, Hope, and thank the board for their engagement. And I want to, in particular, thank the public members of this board. We've got some of the most sophisticated members of the Alabama legislature sit on this board, but these men have been very engaged in the process of offering encouragement to their colleagues in learning more about Innovate and what we've done, what we bring to the table. So I think those things are super important. We appreciate the engagement by all of the board, but in particular our elected officials that are a part of the board in being able to move this forward and have a report like you've shown us that gives us some real encouragement that things are moving in the right direction very rapidly. So thank you both.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Okay, any other comments or questions on that? Okay, if none, we will go ahead and move into the pilot called Elevate Alabama. We're going to ask Ms. Brittany Somerville to do the introduction.
Thank you. If you turn to tab 3, this is where you can read more about Elevate Alabama. This is a new pilot that I'm excited to introduce today. We've had a lot of discussion and excitement and frankly just solid progress over the last couple of years with Invest Alabama, and that's really kind of opened our eyes a little bit into how the innovators and creators in our state need even more exposure. And Innovate Alabama is ideally positioned to help execute that, and I think this pilot is a really good way to do so. And I'm going to introduce Alex in a second, who's going to go into more detail, but in the basic premise of it is our companies and our founders, we want them to stay in Alabama and grow and do more here, and not to feel like they need to go to Texas or California or somewhere else to grow their company, that they can get investment and they can find the right resources and people and support and customers in our state. Elevate Alabama is a pilot that's going to introduce ways to do that. So I'm going to introduce Alex Forsberg from Oklahoma, and he's going to tell us more.
Thank you so much, Brittany. Angle it that way. Hey, folks. Pleasure to be in front of you today talking about this fabulous, really interesting new pilot opportunity. That's an old headshot. Let's start with this. So for those of you who haven't heard of OPAL before, we're a statewide economic development organization. We're a C3. We're a statewide EDO. So just like EDPA and others, we run the tax credit program. Have been involved in Innovate from the start, and have, Chairman Reed said, it's been really, really cool to watch the evolution of Innovate over the years. And I think we've through the efforts of this group, I think you've seen incredible progress in terms of the level of investment we've seen in this state, and in company formation too, and in positive mention. But I think, as Brittany alluded to, one of the things that is core to our mission that we'd love to see more of on a statewide basis is aggregation of capital to allow for doing what Brittany said, to allow companies to stay here, grow here, and to facilitate a lot of the broader aims that we have, not just on this board, but more broadly through the Catalyst Initiative and the other kind of strategic planning that we've done here over the last few years. All of it, at the end of the day, requires private investment in this state for it to succeed. And we've been involved in that really since our founding. That's sort of core to who we are at OPAL. We exist to bring three groups together, communities, projects, and investors, around the idea that Alabama actually does have something unique to offer from an investment perspective. Most of the work that we do is in the tax-advantaged investing space. think new markets tax credits and opportunity zones and other ways to draw on the federal government's resources for helping to draw capital into our state. But obviously we play with all the state tax credit programs too and local incentives as well, using those as a hook to introduce people that wouldn't otherwise be thinking about Alabama to Alabama. And so far, at least to date, we've been able to do that relatively successfully, to the tune of over $1 billion of private investment that we've seen through the efforts of Opal and those in our network. So as we think about sort of what the next chapter of capital formation in Alabama looks like, one of the things that we have noticed as a potential catalyst for growth is sort of this idea of experiences. For those of us who have been around people with money like to be around not just other people with money, but really cool, creative showcases for what a state or a geography or a locality has to offer, right? That's when you actually get authentic engagement and not just someone showing up and saying, great, I came to a panel or I came to a session and I learned, I listened, and I went home, right? So how do we create the stickiness that is required to actually not just attract capital to Alabama, but keep capital in Alabama and keep capital in Alabama in a sort of synergistic format around our entrepreneurs? Because I firmly believe that once those sticky introductions happen, our entrepreneurs stand on their own and will unequivocally continue to kind of raise capital from the same folks that we're desiring to bring in. So the idea behind the Elevate pilot is to create exactly those kind of unique, once in a lifetime catalytic events where we can draw on our national network of potential investors on both coasts, in the heartland and otherwise. Bring them to Alabama around catered experiences in 4 geographies, and as a part of those experiences, introduce them to founders, people in our innovation ecosystem, to create the kinds of conversations, to create the kinds of fertile ground for investment that we think will ultimately create hopefully over the years, exponential growth in terms of the level of people that care about the state, people that want to put money into the state, and people that want to tell all their friends back in California, back in New York, back in the places they're from, about the incredible experiences they had here and how they can't wait to get back down here. So that's the basic idea behind the pilot. I don't know nearly the number of cool people that you would think I would, based on the cool beard and the look. That's where our partner Ben Jernigan comes in. Ben's got years worth of experience catalyzing exactly these types of events. In Mobile as a starting point. And that's kind of where this initiative was birthed out of, was his work doing exactly that kind of catalytic placemaking around these sorts of events in Mobile. So this initiative, it's an initial phase for these first 4 events. It'd be $1 million budget, which, we think is sufficient to seed this initiative and kind of get it rolling, get it started, and build the sort of buzz and national reputation that we think is both merited and needed to make it work. So that's the very basics. And I mean, again, from a leveraged private investment perspective, obviously that's a core part of what we're trying to do and what we think we can accomplish. To give you a sense of scale, I mean, for Opal took about $3 to $4 million to seed back in 2018, and it's led to $1 billion worth of private investments. So our ratio is a heck of a lot better than 5 to 1, and we think this initiative could be the next chapter of that. So, Cynthia, I think I stayed on time.
Yeah, thank
Barely.
you. Okay, questions?
Any questions? Well, as I think about this, I think it fits squarely in the Innovation Commission's report and in our pillars as it relates particularly to access to capital. Alex, you referred to aggregation of capital. I think that those in the same sense. But also the notion of marketing our state, marketing our entrepreneurs, marketing our startup business, marketing our small businesses across the state who are trying to attract investment. I do think the critical component of performance and outcome here is going to be the lead follow-up, the connectivities. Does the investment follow the relationships, and can we demonstrate that in terms of a return on investment? Of course, that's going to be the challenge and the fun thing to watch. So, but I think this is an exciting opportunity, and I certainly encourage us to pursue it. Are there any questions? questions, comments?
I'll give a small example.
Sure.
And this is, we're talking bigger than this example, but my small town of Coleman, Alabama, started doing festivals 10 years ago. They just finished up, they got 23,000 people in the city. Over a 4-week period with the Christmas market that we did, we had over 415,000 people come through because of the experience.
I was one of them.
You're one of them. So as people came, obviously I worked 4 blocks away, went up there 2 different times. I saw total 3 people I knew from my hometown. Everyone had came from all over the state, all over the southeast, all over the nation, and we affected every state. Somebody had came there because we're keeping up with the tracking of it. But that's just a small experience that we're talking about, and I do believe the experiences are what people want and where the future is going, and they're going to remember that about Alabama. And what I love are the people that we've talked about from New York City that come down to see us for the first time and have never been even in the South. But then they get here and they say, "Mike, I did not know that Alabama had all of this to offer."
We love it.
Exactly. And so this is just going to enhance that. I'm excited about the pilot program. I know we're going to get results from it. Obviously, we want deliverables at the end of the year, but I believe we're going to have that.
And I would just quickly, I think a bigger example is what we heard in the Alabama Growth Alliance meeting with the Lilly announcement in North Alabama, which is Alabama wasn't on the radar. And we have to continue to get Alabama on the radar. And I think there are small examples and there are big examples, and hopefully this can produce big examples. But the idea is to continue to put Alabama on the radar, to attract investment. And that's the name of the game. So thank you. We need
Have a resolution.
there is a resolution to approve this pilot as presented. Will I hear a motion?
Motion.
All right, have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The pilot is approved. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Ben.
Okay. All right. Next up, we have the SSBCI update. I will go ahead and read the intro for Representative Garrett. Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to give an update on our Lend AL and Invest AL programs. Over the last several meetings of this board, we've heard a number of small businesses. We've heard from a number of small businesses that have participated in these programs. They reflect a wide array of industries, and I know you will have enjoyed getting to hear more from them over the next few months. The Lend AL and Invest AL programs remain an important factor in these companies getting the capital they need to grow their businesses in the state of Alabama and create jobs here. Since the launch of SSBCI, Innovate Alabama has committed or invested over $35 million across the 2 programs, unlocking more than $100 million in private capital. And that's really, really important. On a $30 million investment, we were able, and this is early stage, this is very early stages of that program, we've been able to unlock $100 million. I'd now like to turn it over to Executive Director of the Alabama SSBCI program, Charlie Pond, for an in-depth review of the program's performance.
Yeah, Alex broke it. So, yeah, good to see everybody again. Thank you for being here. I know many of you had a chance to meet Will Harding last board meeting. I did want to take a moment just to talk a little bit more about Will's joining our organization as the program manager for Lend AL. 15 years of banking experience, from most recently from First South Farm Credit. He has come in, rolled up his sleeves, gotten to work. The passion, dedication, and attention to detail that he has shown in the 2 months he's been in role have been really evident. And I mention this because I think on his 3rd day, he was responsible for catching a fraud attempt on our program. So a fake lender tried to enroll in our program, and thanks to both our process but also Will doing the work, we were able to stop that before it even began. And so I know we're excited to have him on board. His wife Lauren, son Chip, and daughter V. They're based in Coleman, Alabama. He's going to have a shorter commute to our next board meeting, I think, Mr. Pro Tem. But Lindale, we're continuing to execute on our plan. We've got some focus areas for this year. It's at the beginning of the year, so we're starting with our reporting and audit. We've got some requirements to Treasury to make sure that we're delivering the program in the way that we've committed to. We will be audited from an internal perspective as well. We also will go through our annual rebalancing for all of our debt program accounts that we have. If there's been some payments made by the borrowers, then we're able to rebalance and pull back dollars. So we'll go through that exercise. You'll start to see, because we've been now executing for 18 months, we've got some transactions that have either rolled off because they're a one-year term loan. We've also got some renewals where the lenders have come back to us and say, thank you for getting us going, but this borrower has overperformed, and so we don't need the support anymore. We're freeing up that guarantee back to Innovate Alabama to go redeploy into another small business. So we're starting to see that already. That balance will continue to grow. And then also we want to make sure that we continue to be statewide, and so we've got a plan in place. Will and we're going to go out across the state, focus in the Main Street and rural spaces, in addition to the innovative work that we do. Our top of mind right now, tranche 3. So we want to go get our final tranche. As of today, if you take pipeline and close it, across the board, we're at 45%, but we also have of tranche 2. But if we also have our fund of funds program update that I'll speak to in a second, where if that closes, we're at 70%. And if you recall, we have to be at 80% in order to access our tranche. So we're getting there, and I expect to have by the time we meet again, we'll have applied for our third and final tranche. On the invest side. We have submitted a request for a reallocation of $8.5 million from debt to venture. The purpose of that, the primary purpose is to be able to continue making follow-on investments to our existing portfolio companies. We have 26 companies that we've made investments in. Some of them are starting to grow significantly and coming back and doing additional fundraisers, and we want to be a part of that, continue to be catalytic and make sure that we can protect our share of the companies, but also to introduce them to other investors and continue being a part of that story. And then secondly, we're doing a new RFP for our fund of funds program. This is round 2. We've closed that RFP recently. We had 15 funds that applied to be a part of the program. The majority were from out of state. So this is outside capital that's coming into Alabama. We haven't selected those funds yet, but a big part of the scoring process is alignment with our strategic areas in the state. So the Catalyst Plan and other important industries for Innovate Alabama. That's a big part of how we score applications, and so it's going to be it's a competitive process. We're going to have a hard time moving down to a handful of funds. And then finally, we continue to make the direct investments. We've got a pipeline of $2 million in addition to the 11.7 that we've already closed. I expect that to continue as we move forward with the year. There's a couple of our recent investments that we've made on the direct side, and happy to take any questions around this point.
Any questions? Charlie, just, I know the answer is, how much state money is going into this program?
$0.
I just want to remind everybody, and maybe some in the audience, this is a federal program. The seed money is federal money. There are no state tax dollars entering this program. And you've cited $100 million of private capital that is invested in, I'm going to ask the question, are those multinational businesses owned by people that don't reside in Alabama?
No, sir.
Where are those businesses and who owns them?
Alabama-based companies owned by Alabamians.
And that is capital that those Alabama companies would not have accessed but for this program, with 0 state dollars being invested. But this program, by through Innovate Alabama, has catalyzed that. And that $100 million is really only a small part of the picture of this program. Am I correct?
That's right.
So I know we've talked about this. Just want to drive that point home for everybody, including those present with us today.
Mr. Chairman, can he say how much state money is back in this program again?
$0.
Thank you.
Making sure your microphone's working.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
next we will have another new program we started a few months ago, and I would ask Senator Gudger if he would introduce the Innovate Alabama Capital Access Program.
Do you mind if I take a personal point of privilege just for 1 second? I've got a few people here that I'd like to say hello to, but number one, congratulations to the Innovate team for a quality hire on Will Harding. I know him and his family for years, and I'm thankful that he's on this board, but he is going to produce. And so if he doesn't, put him on me, I've got him.
Okay, all right.
Number two, Ben Jernigan, we're excited about the future and the pilot program. And one thing that you don't know is in Greg Reed's old district and then my district now in Winston County, the operators of the Looney's Tavern, which is an outdoor amphitheater, is right here to my right, which is the Arts Council of Winston County. And they are producing that amphitheater and bringing it back to life. I'd love for you just to go look at that at some point in this pilot program just to see about rural Alabama that we talked about at the AGA meeting right before this one. So that would be great. If y'all could get together beforehand, that'd be okay. Just 90s. And then last, I've got a good friend and a business friend of mine from Birmingham that called me asking me about the great work of Innovate and the different businesses and the grants that are happening. I said, you just need to talk to Hope, and she invited them to come down. So Bar Yancey, thank you for being here, and your business ally John, thank y'all for coming down today. So thank you for allowing me to say that.
Sir?
I'm going to read into our intro for the Capital Access Innovative so as we move forward. This would be Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Thank you. I am pleased to provide an update on the Innovate Alabama Capital Access Fund, which is designed to address one of the most consistent gaps we hear from small businesses across Alabama: access to early stage and follow-up capital as companies begin to grow and scale. The fund is a $15 million evergreen vehicle that allows Innovate Alabama to make direct investments in high-potential Alabama companies, while also partnering with venture funds that are willing to invest here in Alabama. The goal is to help strong Alabama companies stay, grow, and attract outside capital, all within the state. The fund not only aligns with the Alabama Innovation Commission's recommendations, but is also structured for enduring impact, managed by an experienced fund manager. By reinvesting all returns back into the fund, it will continuously fuel the growth of Alabama founders and companies, creating a sustainable pipeline of innovative and economic opportunity, rather than functioning as a one-time investment. At this time, I'm pleased to turn the floor over to Mary Beth Grant to walk us through these details. Thank you.
Perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. It seems like the theme of the day is catalyzing investment into Alabama, so we're going to stay on that theme for another new program that we're rolling out. This is the Innovate Alabama Capital Access Fund. Like Senator Gudger mentioned, that's a $15 million fund that we've created really to continue to catalyze investment here locally for Alabama companies to have here, but also to bring that outside capital investment from, throughout the nation here into the state to support Alabama founders. So ultimately, this fund will really help these Alabama companies grow, create new high-wage jobs, and attract that additional private investment into the state. And this fund was really created in partnership with the Innovate Alabama Capital Access Advisory Council, which is a mouthful, but that was a 30-plus member board that we convened. A lot of individuals and leaders, founders, venture investors, economic developers that helped review the structure of this fund to make sure that there was both a direct component that we were investing directly into Alabama companies, but also a fund-of-funds component. So we're structuring it to where we're also trusting the institutional investors throughout the nation that want to invest in Alabama, very similar to the SSBCI program, and kind of building upon that success as well. Let's see. And so on the direct investment, we'll allocate $10 million to that program. That will really be focused on that early stage companies, kind of pre-seed to Series A, understanding that we only have about $10 million to work with and want to make sure that it's evergreen and able to be recycled and really impact a wide variety of companies. So ideally targeting somewhere between $100,000 to $250,000 of check sizes, and making sure there's at least a one-to-one private match. So it won't just be Innovate Alabama giving this company an investment. there'll also have to be that private capital attached to it as well. On the fund of funds component, we'll have $5 million allocated to that, and are probably targeting somewhere between $1 and $3 million. So a little less than 5 funds would be selected for that as well. On to a little bit about the launch and implementation. Since board approval back late September, we released a public job description for a fund manager. And that took several months, especially along the holidays and everything that was going on in Q4. But we're really excited to have made a selection for a fund manager. They'll be coming on board on the team full-time January 27th. Someone that has been in the state and has investment experience and has really worked closely with early stage startups and mentorship. So we're really excited to have them on board shortly. And we'll have a press release coming out in February announcing that fund manager and also announcing the program to the state, as well as kind of the publishment of the website and having a link for companies to be able to pitch as well. And so that's really what we're looking for in the next couple of months, is onboarding that fund manager, making sure that they're getting acclimated to the program, getting acclimated to Innovate Alabama, getting out into our communities, so kind of taking this show on the road and making sure that companies all throughout the state know that this is a resource if they're actively raising funding, and also issuing that fund of funds request for proposals as well through the next couple of months. So we have a busy couple of months ahead of us, but we're really excited to give a big update in June. Hopefully we'll have made our first investment by then. Our fund manager will be on board, and really excited for this program to get up and running. So at this time, I'll take any questions.
Any questions? All right, thank you, Mary Beth. I think this is a significant step relative to Innovate Alabama's mission. I appreciate the pilot nature, but I also appreciate all the hard work that's gone into it. But I think just you're kind of key board members on this. This is a significant step to support our successful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next presentation will be on the commercialization pilot. Mr. Abe Harper will give us that introduction.
Thank you, Madam CEO. Mr. Chairman, I'm firmly convinced the team gave me this introduction because it appeals to the aviation nerd. Next we'll receive an update from Mr. Jackson Pruitt about the commercialization pilot program. This program is not aviation related, but does accelerate commercialization by connecting growth stage startups with Alabama companies that have a need and a clearly defined business challenge. The program is focused primarily on de-risking innovation for corporate partners while giving the founders the opportunity to validate their theory and their concept, deploy their technologies in real-world environments. The last time we discussed this would have been back in June when the program was initially discussed. So since then, we've done some work behind the scenes with Economic Development Partnership of Alabama, and Jackson's going to bring us some more updates on it.
Thank you, Abe, and appreciate the partnership with Innovate Alabama on behalf of EDPA. Again, I'm Jackson Pruitt. I lead our startup business attraction efforts at EDPA, and very excited to share an update about what I think is going to be key, not only to help our existing founders here in the state grow. You know, we've talked about capital a lot, but the other big C word that's important is customers. And that's really what this program is designed to think about, is how do we help our founders achieve their first big few customers, and also how do we attract more founders to Alabama that are strategically aligned with what we're good at and where we can grow. And so this program, just as a reminder, is called Pilot AL, and really the goal here is to help commercialization-ready startups and small businesses by connecting them with Alabama's existing industry. And so these are specifically companies and small businesses that have already gone through some of our tech accelerator programs. They're kind of past that accelerator phase, and now they're thinking about go-to-market and how do they find their first few customers. And we want those customers to be here in Alabama so they can continue to scale and grow. And so what this really does is provide real access to customers, but also gives them direct feedback on their product, which for anyone that knows a small business or founder, product or feedback on product is really important. So like I mentioned, this is also a great tool for us to find startups around the country who need to be in Alabama because they're aligned with our deep customer base and what we're good at. So like I mentioned quickly, what we've done over the past few months, we decided to start with the existing industry in Alabama and have real deep conversations to understand what problems are they facing. We then took that information, or in the process of taking that information, to go out and find startups and small businesses here in the state and outside of Alabama that could potentially solve those problems, and then match them up and hopefully establish 6-month short-term pilots that kind of grease the tracks to allow for customer introductions. This does two things. Number one, it helps our small businesses achieve their first few customers, but it also helps our existing industry stay competitive, and that is really key in a very fast-changing economy. Is helping ensure our existing industry in the state of Alabama adopts technology, works with our small business startups, and thinks about the next big chapter for their growth. So it de-risks innovation, but also it drives commercial outcomes for our startups. We're being very intentional about what types of existing industry we want to work with. We want to find existing industry here in Alabama where there is deep customer opportunities, where we have technical strengths and talent advantages. And this is also important, that is distributed across Alabama and is not just in our highly dense urban settings. And so as you'll see, the first 3 verticals that we're thinking about, the first types of existing corporates that we're working with are in forestry, mobility, and metals and advanced materials. And so hopefully this continues to scale, but we're already seeing signals that by working with existing industry, it's being distributed across Alabama to many of our rural communities and brings innovation to those spaces, which is really huge. So real quickly, what we've done over the past few months, we have worked with a lot of existing Alabama companies, now 9 Alabama existing industry, and like I mentioned, over half of those are in rural communities, places that have these types of companies that we're working with. So 3 of those corporations have already committed to hosting pilots, and we're now getting into deep technical discussions about what their problems are and how can we find small business startups that can help them. And then we're now going to go out and try to find those startups. So we're going to be activating the existing in-state network to try to figure out, is there an Alabama small business that's gone through one of our tech accelerator programs that might have a solution. But we're also thinking about how can we go out and attract new startups and innovative technology companies that can come to Alabama, the goal being to bring them here, develop customer introductions, and ultimately help them locate here in the state and create jobs. So very excited about where this is going. The amount of money that Innovate has committed to this is really helping us figure out the path to execution now, and so I'm excited to see where we're going to go. Our goal is next quarter we will be launching these pilots across the state of Alabama with our existing industry and also helping our small businesses grow. So with that, happy to answer any questions about Pilot AL.
Any questions? All right. Thank you, Jackson. Thank you, Ed.
Okay, we are approaching our final presentation for today. As always, we like to end on a fun, positive note with lifestyle and recreation. We're going to ask Senator Singleton to please provide the intro.
Thank you, Madam CEO, Mr. Chairman. Over the last year, outdoor recreation has remained a key component of Innovate Alabama strategy, connecting our natural assets to our broader efforts in talent attraction and retention. We're making great strides and we continue to receive great feedbacks in this area. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Blankenship to give us an update.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the time to share a little bit about this work that's going on. In 5 minutes, I'm going to tell you where we started, what we said we'd do, what we all did, and where we are headed from here. So, as you'll recall from the fireside chat, Dr. Rice mentioned outdoor recreation and its impact and the ability for us in Alabama to use that to differentiate ourselves multiple times in her talk last month. And so I was pretty excited about it. I almost stood up and clapped a couple of times. But I thought that, I kind of wanted to bring us back to kind of where we started with this several years ago. That was in the report that came out about the importance of outdoor recreation and using that to differentiate Alabama. But we needed to do some work. We needed to take advantage of the assets that we had and do a lot of infrastructure work and really build that out. Started with just the 4 of us. From this 4 came a council of 19 members that was really geographically and diverse all over the state and different types of recreation. Come up with 13 recommendations from outdoor recreation the goals that came from that committee. I am happy to report that all of the recommendations of those 13 things have either been done or in the process of being done. I think that anytime I get a list, I like to check things off the list, and so I'm excited about all the work that has taken place. Those include a permanent council on outdoor recreation, which we have now. We created the brand, website, asset inventory at Seek Alabama. I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. I won't read the slides. I know it's maybe a little bit hard to see, but some of the things that I'm most excited about are things that have taken place. We're creating a grant program for outdoor recreation improvements in communities. There are a lot of NGOs and places that did not have access to funds because they didn't qualify under the ADECA funding programs for RTP or all the different things that come through ADECA. And so that was a big thing that came out of our council, is you had all these communities like the Freshwater Land Trust, Red Rock, the River Region Trail System. They could not have access to money to build out all the things that they had planned. And so through this program, in the process of what we're doing now, we'll have over $10 million that have been loaned out or given out in grants to these communities to match with their funds to do good work. And I think that is a substantial investment. We've seen that all over the state. We represent the state on the outdoor recreation roundtable, getting information from other states, coordinate between all the different groups, the Alabama Trails Commission, the Alabama Trails Foundation, the Sweet Trails, Singing River Trails. We need to have one group that's coordinating outdoor recreation amongst all those. That was a gap, and we've been able to do that. A lot of that with TC being here. We'll taking that over, I guess, a little bit now for a while until we can get somebody else. And and I'll say the last thing there: more money equals more good work. Long-term investment in this, and that we've implemented millions of dollars of on-the-ground recreational improvements, and that includes. About $66 million in boating access projects at 50 different sites around the state. If you'll recall, Innovate invested about $8 million in that. We've been able to triple that with some federal dollars and then put other money with that to do $66 million of boating access work. I told you early on that there was some low-hanging fruit in two different places, at Coldwater Mountain and at Oak Mountain, to try and get those two sites, International Mountain Bike Association, IMBA Silver designations. If we did that in Alabama, we'd be one of the few places in the country that had two of those designations. I'm happy to report that not only have we invested a little over $1 million from Innovate at both of those sites, the cities of Anniston and Oxford have invested money in their own cities on either side of Coldwater Mountain. And the city of Pelham and primarily Shelby County has invested a lot of money along with the state parks at Oak Mountain State Parks. And I think we're really on track very quickly to get both of those certified as IMBA Gold, not IMBA Silver, because of the additional investments that have been made. And we will be really the only place in the country that has two IMBA Gold sites that close together. That's going to be a big deal for us in Alabama. We spent a lot of effort on the Pinhoti Trail, trying to build out that with the Forestry Commission and with the Trails Foundation and with the state parks to build out some amenities on the Pinhoti Trail, and then upgrades and retrofits to outdoor recreation structures all over the state. But the biggest, one of the biggest tools is that one-stop inventory that we wanted to put together, the marketing of that, a website that could be used as a tool for economic development people and to show what assets of outdoor recreation we had in the state, and we've done that through Seek Alabama and that whole entire effort. We've done a lot of work at the Forever Wild Field Trial area in rural Alabama, a lot of work in the Black Belt to help in that region of the state. And then at the bottom, I just want to say that we've invested about $220 million in state parks through the Department of Conservation. All of this builds together on improving outdoor recreation throughout the state, and I am extremely proud of the work that has been done and how it tracks with what we said we were going to do back in the several years ago when we first put this group together. And Seek Alabama, increasing the awareness on the assets, we've done that. Leveraging Alabama's outdoor assets and lifestyle to shift perceptions of our state. We talk about experiences and how people look at Alabama. What we have in the outdoors is a great way for us to change those perceptions, and we've seen success in that in recruiting and retaining tech talent and companies coming to our state. And with that, talking about where we're going, we really have done a lot of work now collectively in the outdoor rec space around our state. We have improved infrastructure. We've got some things now that are worth marketing. Does that make sense? We've spent the last couple of years really building that out and capitalizing on what the report said that we needed to do to highlight our outdoor recreation space. We've done that. Now we need to take those new facilities and upgraded facilities and use Seek Alabama and other ways to market that and continue to use that outdoor recreation as a tool and a differentiator for us. I've seen some video spots that have been put together pretty recently that are pretty impressive about our state and using outdoor recreation to do that. So hopefully we get to see those. And with that, I appreciate the opportunity. I think I stayed within 5 minutes.
Chris, will you send those videos around as you see them? I'd love to. I think I've seen some of them, but make sure everybody gets to see those.
Sure. I think Cynthia.
We will.
I want to thank you. You have led this, and those goals would not have been accomplished without you. And you did not need to have to engage Innovate in this way. And you chose to because I think you saw the bigger picture beyond just the state parks, but the breadth of outdoor recreation in your leadership has been critical. And I think, what is important in Chris's presentation is this is an effort that's led by the stakeholders. It creates a grant program that's not just for one project or one trail, or for that matter, just for trails. It looks at the state holistically across all areas of outdoor recreation, which of course impacts our rural areas. I keep looking, Mr. Protein, because I know you're working on rural. but it creates a matching grant fund for the most high impact, high return projects, because we wouldn't have gotten those biking trails in the position they are, and those mountain bikings, but for this opportunity. It wasn't another state fund. So it gives communities the ability to access in a way for high impact. Chris and others have done this. And very grateful for that. And our funding for this has diminished a little bit. I hope we'll be able to replenish that because I think there's an enormous opportunity here that we need to capitalize. And I think this effort uniquely centralizes that in a way that's never happened for the state before, which has generally been fractured and non-existent.
I think that was a key from our early meetings with all of the stakeholders is that it has been very fractured. There was no coordination around the state on how to do this, and we've been able, I think, through Innovate to do that. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that very much. I think I'm so passionate about it. I love it so much. I know I shouldn't have got that mint right before I stood up here. You see me choke to death up here. But I thank you for that. And I did just pass out to the group. There was just something I had in the office, something we put together in kind of our outdoor recreation a report that I'd done for something else. I just brought that over. It does mention in there multiple times about Innovate and how we were able to use some of the Innovate money, kind of as seed money, and to find additional opportunities and bring other money to the table, not only from the department, but from the cities and counties and other opportunities to do good work. I will point out one thing in there. It does say we spent $56 million in boat ramps. It's really $66 million. I forgot a $10 million project. I don't know how you do that, but I did. The biggest project we did, I did not include in that book. So but appreciate the opportunity. Glad I'll be hanging around. Anybody wants to talk about any of this afterwards. Thank you, brother.
Thank you very much. This concludes our substantive agenda day, so we're staying on time. I have a couple scheduling comments, but first, are there any issues for the good of order any board members would like to raise?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I want to highlight what I have seen actually in this room today several times. I've been in a couple of meetings in this room, and we're doing something at Alabama. Innovate is leading the way. You just heard the commissioner mention it. Our ability to coordinate and collaborate our efforts as a state is making a world of difference. And we're doing that with Innovate. We're taking small things and turning them into big things because we're working together. And I just think it's a great highlight for the way Alabama does it, for the success that we're having. Innovate at the front of the line, but all kinds of other things that are going on in our state that an ability to collaborate and coordinate together, tear down silos, meet in the middle, make it happen as Alabamians is what I've heard all day today. And it's exciting.
Thank you. I think that's well said, and the continuation of attracting external investment in Alabama creates a multiplier. Thank you. I'd be remiss to notice, I think we have two long-standing board members who aren't at the table today. Missed them. We're going to work hard to keep them engaged. I hope everybody will assist in keeping them engaged. They are valuable and continue to be valuable ambassadors. We have two vacancies. We'll seek to fill those within probably the next 60 days. I solicit all of your input, help, ideas on that. We clearly want to have an orientation opportunity opportunity and be ready to go with the full board again in the second quarter. We've had a late Q4 meeting and an early Q1 meeting. Everybody gets a little breathing room till June. We'll gather in Coleman. I do think it's important as we think about our Q2, 3, 4 meetings that we work hard to get our metrics on the success of our programs, the measurables, the jobs, the KPIs. Let's continue to really focus on that, I think, in the back end of this calendar year to make sure. I know we have a lot of reporting and data gathering. We're very robust in that in all of our programs, but we need to make sure we present that in a concise fashion, and maybe let's make that a particular goal in those meetings. The forward-looking schedule, June 2026 in Coleman, planning, August 26 in Point Clear, December 26 back in Birmingham. Those could be subject to change, but that's the plan for now. All right, we are on time, and unless there's anything further, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good job, Mr. Chairman.
Stay a little bit over. It's okay.
for
Becca, we've also gotten questions on how will tech labs be